Joining me now, Bustle.com Senior Director of Research and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarloff, and Independent Women's Voice Forum Fellow Kelsey Harkness. Let me start with you, Jessica, because these rich Silicon Valley folks, generally progressives, they have billions of dollars. They have access to our information. They have the ability to move our minds and change our opinions, engaging in the same tactics that we've got several investigations going on for. Where's the criticism?
Well, I think that Reid Hoffman made a criticism here. I will make a criticism. I think that anyone who is engaging in those tactics, though it wasn't knowingly, there's no accusation that Reid Hoffman knew what was being used, what his money was being used for, I think is warranted. But it is different than a campaign working with a foreign power to disrupt the outcome of an election. And no one is accusing Reid Hoffman of that. We have to wait for the Mueller report to know the extent to which. But that is the difference here. I mean, disinformation campaigns
just
can
the
affect
idea
people.
Russia interfered. Everyone's offended. We don't know this. We're saying that this entity, AET, used the same tactics that Russia used, whether they colluded with any campaign or not, right? Russia knew the hot buttons. They knew to go after racial things.
On both sides, but the difference is whether a campaign knew what they were doing, or it's something like Reid Hoffman, who says that he had no idea what was actually happening. So this is about an external threat.
In a sense, I hope we don't spend $100 million investigating Reid Hoffman to find out if he knew. I
doubt that we will.
Okay, I doubt we will either. But Kelsey, here's my problem with this. You know, conservatives have said Facebook has mistreated them. Twitter has mistweeted them. People feel like, okay, here's a guy with LinkedIn, access to all of our professional information. He didn't know. He says he didn't know, but he did knowingly put out millions of dollars to try to sway, voters. And it's worrisome to people out there because you've got more and more of these billionaires who are doing this. And hardly any of them are doing it in the name of conservatives. But the point is, the Russian tactics part, I think, is really something we should be talking about.
Absolutely. I think this is liberal hypocrisy at its finest. I've noticed multiple news outlets have not given the story much coverage. And when you compare that to the amount of coverage that any Russian meddling has got throughout the past 2 years, we know it's quite the opposite. And so I actually don't think his apology goes far enough. I think that this should be investigated. I know the Democrats who are about to take over the House are quite excited to launch some investigations. And I think this might be a great place to start.
One thing, Jessica, we do see is when conservatives have voiced concerns about being mistreated by these large social media platforms, it's often dismissed, almost out of hand, by Democrats and the media. I mean, is maybe now time for the media, Democrats, to take a second look and say maybe conservatives have a point?
Well, Democrats showed up at the hearings where we brought in tech giants to discuss the alleged bias.
They did some serious blocking for them also.
I guess so, but there hasn't actually been any evidence found of systematic bias against conservatives. Even if we look at the IRS debacle where they said, oh, they targeted Tea Party groups, then it came out in 2017 that they also targeted the word progressive. To Kelsey's point about the fact that it's only liberals that are doing this, what about the Koch brothers? What about Sheldon Adelson? Those are billionaires that are using tons of money to get Republicans elected. And Alabama is going to look into this, and any state that has disinformation campaigns should do that. But I actually don't see any case of bias here, or to say that Reid Hoffman didn't go far enough. It's out of his hands at this point, and he's already apologized. The Trump campaign that has benefited directly by these Russian tactics have done nothing but to deny that this went on or that it benefited them, when it's been very clear that Putin preferred Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton.
I'm not sure that Vladimir Putin has the power, Kelsey, to decide who's going to be president of the United States. But again, Facebook, 2 billion users. LinkedIn, acquired for tens of billions of dollars. Twitter. I mean, these are gigantic entities that know every single thing about us. Amazon. It's the idea that they have more power than the federal government to sway our opinions. It has a lot of people concerned.
As it should. And look, we know there is conservative bias inside these organizations. If you're a conservative and work for one of them, we know there have been cases where people have allegedly been fired for their political perspectives. We now know there's bias on the platforms themselves, with billionaire liberal donors targeting conservative voters in a very tightly contested election, I want to add. We're talking about this Alabama Senate race here, which was decided by only a couple thousand votes. And then we know these wealthy heads of these companies have millions and billions of dollars to donate to liberal causes, which are all impacting the election. I think in this case, it's pretty clear there was some sort of impact in the election, and it should be investigated.
Well, we'll see what happens with the Alabama AG, but certainly it's a story that should be getting more press one way or the other.
I found it on the Washington Post, by the way, so take a look at that liberal rap.
Right next to the obituaries. Jessica, Kelsey, thank you both very much, ladies.
Thanks.